Hi everybody, today's episode is a very special episode because in this episode we are going to understand how even a poor island like Taiwan can transform itself into a technology powerhouse if it adopts the right policies and strategies. In the previous video, we saw that Taiwan was already facing a diplomatic crisis. This is because in the year 1974, Taiwan was thrown out of the United Nations. Not only that, almost every country in the world was cutting off its diplomatic relations with Taiwan. And Taiwan was also facing a severe inflation because of the global oil crisis. So the question over here is, what were the strategies and policies adopted by the Taiwan to transform itself into a technology powerhouse? And the most important question of, what are the important lessons for India to learn from Taiwan? Well, at this point of time, the government of Taiwan decided that the only way Taiwan can stay relevant in this world is by making itself into a leader in future technologies. One area I decided to focus on was on semiconductors.
At the beginning of the government in Taiwan started to think, how do we take the next step in our economic development? And they identified, among many areas, semiconductors as a critical technology. And so that really took off in the 1990s with the growth of Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company that eventually, now today is an absolutely crucial company for any company that's making technology. Their chips are in smartphones, they're in tablets, they're in computers, they're in games consoles, and they're in cars as well. Anything that you need chips for, largely, you're having to come to TSMC. And so this, by extension, puts Taiwan in a fairly strong position that it is a key node in the tech supply chain globally. And so it is a really valuable partner for every single country in the world.
However, becoming a leader in semiconductor was not an easy task. It is because of the following 5 reasons. Semiconductor was a technology-based industry. Developing the technology to design and manufacture these semiconductors would take several decades. Apart from this, US and Japan were already market leaders in semiconductors. So it was not possible for Taiwan to compete with them and establish a global dominance. Second major problem was availability of high quality people. Semiconductor industries require people who have good knowledge on research and development of semiconductor technologies. In the 1970s, majority of Taiwanese educational qualification was just a basic education. Hence, they did not have the necessary workforce for semiconductor manufacturing. Third major problem was investment. Establishment of semiconductor manufacturing plant requires huge investment. Apart from this, another major hindrance for establishing semiconductor industry is its perception. Semiconductor industries are considered to be a risky business. This is because semiconductors' lifetime are very short. It ranges from 1 to 2 years. If a processor or a graphics card are released in a market within a couple of years, this product becomes outdated because of the entry of a better version of the processor. Just imagine if a company invests lot of time and money to develop a processor, and if something goes wrong, the company will not have the time to fix it before the product becomes completely outdated. So the question over here is, how did Taiwan address these problems and what measures did they take to establish itself as a technology superpower and a global leader in semiconductor? The first step was to establish an institute called as Industrial Technology Research Institute. The main objective of this institute is the development of new technologies and transferring it to the private industries. In order to address the issues of skill shortage, Taiwanese government undertook a series of measures. The first step was more emphasis was given on higher education. People of Taiwan were encouraged and given monetary assistance to pursue higher education. Not only that, entire syllabus of higher education was revamped to meet the future technology needs of the country. Second measure was financial assistance for students who wanted to travel abroad. So, students were given financial assistance by the government under a special program. Under this program, government would sponsor the students for their expense for foreign education. However, the beauty of this program is that these students would be encouraged to work in some leading foreign companies after their graduation. After a period of time, the same students would be encouraged to return to Taiwan and start their own companies. In this way, Taiwan got access not only to international technologies but also international contacts that made it easier to get foreign direct investment. Apart from these, ITRI, that is Industrial Technology Research Institute, tied up with technology companies for skill development. For example, ITRI paid a freaking $10 million to a company called as the Radio Corporation of America to train 37 Taiwanese engineers on how to design and manufacture integrated circuits and semiconductors. Third step was related to investment. In order to overcome the issues of getting investment, the government adopted twofold approach. First step was to establish a special economic zone called as knowledge parks. These parks were used by the technology-based industries. These parks provided special incentives like zero tax, free land, low-cost electricity to these companies. Another measure was co-investment by Taiwanese government. For example, if any investor was willing to establish an industry in Taiwan, Taiwan government would assist the investor with an additional investment. All these measures of the Taiwanese government served as the groundwork to establish its dominance in semiconductors. In 1987, Taiwanese government, through Industrial Technology Research Institute, established a new company called as the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, along with a partnership of Philips. In this company, Taiwanese government made an investment of 21% of the total investment, whereas Philips made an investment of 28% and the remaining came from other small-scale investors who had interest in semiconductors. You see guys, 1980s was a period when global companies like Sony, Samsung and Intel were the leading players in the semiconductor manufacturing. Being a brand new company in semiconductors, just imagine how difficult it would have been for TSMC to compete against these companies. However, today TSMC is the global leader in the manufacture of semiconductors. It has overtaken all these companies like Samsung and Intel. So the question over here is, how come a new company like TSMC could overtake these global giants, and what were the special strategies adopted by TSMC? The first factor is the leadership of TSMC. In 1985, Taiwanese government hired a 55-year-old Maurice Chang into the Industrial Technology Research Institute. Maurice Chang was born in China, but he did his higher education in Harvard and MIT. Not only that, he had an experience of more than 30 years in semiconductor industry in United States. Knowledge and experience of Maurice Chang proved effective for TSMC as he began to fill the gaps created by these large companies. To understand this, you have to first understand what is integrated device manufacturers. These are the companies that are responsible for the entire process from design to manufacture and marketing of semiconductors. Over a period of time, this type of companies proved ineffective because of two major reasons. One, there was an increasing demand for semiconductors, and at the same time, different types of semiconductors came into existence as they were used in different types of electronic devices like computers, TVs, and washing machines. IDMs were not able to meet new design needs and market trends. This is because of the large-scale and rigid system of design and manufacturing adopted by integrated design and manufacturing companies. This inability of IDMs led to the birth of two more types of semiconductor companies. One was fabless and the other was foundries. Fabless are semiconductor companies that are focused only in design of semiconductors. They have better expertise in designing better semiconductors based on the requirement. Other company is foundries. These companies focus only on manufacture of semiconductors. So, can you guess the gap that is being filled by TSMC, guys? TSMC is the world's first foundry. That is, TSMC is the world's first exclusive semiconductor manufacturing company. When companies like Intel and Samsung were taking care of both design and manufacturing of semiconductors, TSMC decided to focus only on the manufacturing of semiconductors. This gave leverage for TSMC in 3 areas. Because TSMC focused its resources on manufacturing alone, it was able to bring efficiencies and cost reductions in manufacturing. TSMC was also able to work with the design companies in a much more flexible manner. Its ability to manufacture different designs provided by external design companies enabled it to work with large number of companies like Apple, Intel, Nvidia and AMD. TSMC was able to work with the design companies in a secure manner. This is because TSMC guaranteed to its client design companies that TSMC would never become its competitors like the IDMs. To understand this, let's take the example of Apple and Samsung. Apple does not manufacture any of its semiconductors. It would only design its semiconductors and would outsource its manufacturing to an IDM like Samsung. However, companies like Samsung undertakes both the design and manufacture of semiconductors not only for its own products but also for others' products. This puts Apple in risk of losing out to its own competitor. This is because of the simple fact that Samsung may use Apple's semiconductor designs for its own product. This was one of the important reasons why large number of companies like Apple outsourced its manufacturing of semiconductors to TSMC. And today, Apple is its biggest client, accounting for 25% of its total revenue share. So, this is how, ladies and gentlemen, Taiwan transformed itself from one of the poorest islands in the world into one of the most prosperous country and a dominant player in semiconductor manufacturing. With this, we come to the last part of the video. What are the important lessons for India to learn? The first lesson India needs to learn is the importance of a strong agriculture sector. Taiwan is just another proof that no country can become an industrial superpower ignoring its agriculture sector. Just like Taiwan strengthened its agriculture through various reforms, especially through its land reforms, India should also focus on large-scale agriculture reforms. Indian agriculture today faces multiple issues. For example, in India, less than 5% of farmers own more than 35% of total farmland in India. Not only that, more than 2/3 of farmers of India cultivate in land of less than 1 acre of area. Apart from this, there are several other issues like low technology usage, absence of irrigation, lack of fair prices. Many more issues combined together affect the growth of agriculture and its farmers. The second important lesson for India is the importance of planning and prioritization. For example, Taiwan prioritized to make itself as a leader in semiconductor technology. To achieve this goal, it formulated a long-term plan and executed a series of steps to achieve them. This gave advantage to Taiwan that it was able to concentrate its resources on one specific technology and also monitor the progress effectively. Just like this, Indian government should also prioritize what are the specific future technologies that India wants to establish itself as a leader in the future. After prioritizing the specific technologies, India should start allocating resources for them effectively. The most important factor is that it should be a long-term plan that can be monitored and tracked. The third important lesson is the government support for private sector. From the Taiwan's case study, we can understand the government support to the private sector can be divided into two types. The first one is assistance in the technology development. During the initial phase, small-scale private companies might not have the technology to stay competitive in the global market. Under such a situation, government institutes like ITRI should work proactively along with international and domestic companies and develop the best technologies. Once it has been developed, it has to be distributed to the private companies. This reduces the financial burden on small private companies which otherwise would have costed millions of dollars for them. Second is the financial assistance. If government wants to establish a world-class domestic company in the next generation technologies, government should not restrict its role to incentives and subsidies alone. It should also invest and become a shareholder in that company. Take the example of TSMC. Taiwan government's investment in TSMC gave Philips the confidence necessary to invest in TSMC. Not only this, since majority of investment is done by private sector, government's investment stays transparent and open, leaving limited space for corruption. The fourth important lesson for India is emphasis on skill development. Just like Taiwan, India should also focus on 5 key areas of skill development. From Taiwan's case study, we can understand how India can adopt the 5 different approaches adopted by Taiwan. First one is enhance the quality of higher education. The syllabus of Indian higher education should be completely revamped according to its future needs. The second area is the gap between universities, industries, and research institutes. In India, the gap between universities, industries, and research institutes are too high. This should be changed. Governments should strengthen the relationship between universities, research institutes, and industries. This will have 3 critical benefits for Indian society. First benefit would be Indian students can stay up to date by getting knowledge from both research institutes and industries. And the second benefit would be for research institutes, as they could get the human capital from universities, and not only that, they will be able to understand the needs of industries and develop appropriate technologies for them. And the third benefit would be that industries could get latest technologies from research institutes in an efficient manner, and at the same time they can get apprentice and human resource from universities. Just like Taiwan tied up with Radio Corporation of America to train engineers on semiconductor manufacturing, Indian government should tie up with international companies for skill development in specific technologies. Indian government should support students who are interested and qualified to travel abroad for higher studies by providing them with financial incentives and subsidies and gain international exposures. Government should create attractive schemes to encourage overseas Indian citizens to come and establish their own industries. Fifth and the final lesson that India needs to learn from this Taiwanese case study is the importance of participation of business leaders in the private sector. India should increase the participation of private sector business leaders into the governance of India. Take the example of Taiwan. Policies and strategies of Maurice Chang was largely responsible for Taiwan's growth into a global leader of semiconductor. And this was largely because of his international exposure in semiconductor industries. Before starting in TSMC, he had worked in several multinational companies like Texas Instruments. The experience he gained in these companies helped him to make some strategic decisions for TSMC. So that's all from my side, guys. If you found this video useful, please press the like button, as it will help us with the YouTube algorithm. For more such videos, please press the subscribe button and the notification button. Give us your most valuable comments in the comment section. See you in the next video. Thank you and bye bye.